Let's take a moment to pause and reflect. Think about the relationships in your life, friends, family, colleagues, maybe even your partner. Do you feel a sense of balance in those connections? Or do you find yourself always giving, always extending a helping hand, always being the one to show up while getting little to nothing in return? If you felt that imbalance, you're not alone. Many of us have been there. And today I'm here to tell you that recognizing it isn't just the first step to change, it's a necessity for your own growth and happiness. Because the truth is, there are people out there who are happy to take and never give back, and if you allow it, they'll drain you until there's nothing left. Now, let's talk about what this looks like. These takers aren't always obvious. They might not outright ask you for something all the time. Instead, they could subtly pull you in, relying on your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to help. They'll make you feel obligated, as though their needs should always come first. And because you're compassionate, because you care, you keep giving your time, your attention, your emotional support. At first, you might not notice. After all, helping someone feels good. It's fulfilling to know you've made someone's day a little easier, a little brighter. But as time goes on, something shifts. You start to notice that the effort only flows one way. When you're the one who's struggling, when you're the one who needs someone to lean on, they're nowhere to be found. They always have an excuse, don't they? Oh, I'm so busy I didn't realize you needed me. I wish I could help. But yet, when the roles are reversed, their needs are urgent. Their problems demand your immediate attention. They take your energy, your resources, your care, and they leave you empty. And let's be clear, relationships like this aren't just exhausting, they're damaging. They chip away at your self-worth. They make you question whether you're asking for too much when in reality you're simply asking for the same effort you've always given. But here's the thing, it's not your job to carry someone else's weight alone. A healthy relationship, whether it's with a friend, a partner, or even a colleague, is about reciprocity. It's about mutual respect, mutual effort, and mutual care. When one person is always giving and the other is always taking, that's not a relationship. That's a one-sided arrangement where someone is being used. And let me tell you something, your worth is not determined by how much you give. It's not tied to how many problems you solve for other people, how often you show up for them, or how much of yourself you sacrifice. You are worthy simply because you exist, and you deserve relationships that reflect that truth. But here's the hard part, recognizing the takers in your life is one thing. Choosing to protect yourself from them is another. Why? Because takers are often skilled manipulators. They know how to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They'll call you selfish, accuse you of not caring, or even try to convince you that you owe them your help. But you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your energy. You don't owe anyone the right to drain you. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-respect. It's saying, I value myself enough to protect my peace, my time, my energy. And if someone truly cares about you, they'll respect those boundaries. Now, let's talk about guilt, because that's the weapon takers often use. They'll say things like, after everything I've done for you, or I thought you cared about me. And as a giver, as someone who genuinely wants to help, that guilt can weigh heavy on your heart. But let me ask you this, where is their guilt when they take from you without giving back? Where is their guilt when they leave you struggling, knowing they could help but choosing not to? Guilt should not be the currency of your relationships. Love, respect, and reciprocity, that's the real currency. That's what a healthy connection looks like. Now, I want you to think about something important. Every time you give to a taker, you're not just giving them your resources, you're also taking away from yourself. You're taking away time that could be spent on your goals, your dreams, your well-being. You're taking away energy that could be poured into people who actually value you, who give back, who uplift you. And here's the truth, the more you allow takers to drain you, the less you have to offer the people who truly matter, the less you have for yourself. So what's the solution? How do you break free from this cycle? It starts with one word: no. No to their demands, no to their guilt trips, no to their endless taking, and yes to yourself, yes to your peace, your priorities, your happiness. Now, I know that saying no isn't always easy. It might come with backlash. Takers don't like being told no because it disrupts the dynamic they've grown comfortable with. But let me tell you this, every time you say no to a taker, you're saying yes to a better life. You're creating space for people who will give as much as they take, for relationships that nourish you instead of draining you. And when you do that, when you start prioritizing yourself, you'll feel something shift. You'll feel lighter, freer, more at peace. You'll realize that your worth isn't tied to how much you give to others, but to how much you value yourself. So as you walk away from this message today, I challenge you to take inventory of your relationships. Who are the takers? Who leaves you feeling drained? And what are you willing to do to protect your peace? Because at the end of the day, life is too short to be weighed down by people who only know how to take. You deserve better. You deserve balance. And you have the power to create that in your life. Stand firm in your worth. Set those boundaries. And never ever forget, you are not here to be a well that others empty without ever filling back up. You are here to thrive, to grow, to shine. Protect that with everything you've got. Thank you. When you interact with someone like this, they might present themselves as a concerned friend, a helpful coworker, or even a loving partner, but their actions tell a different story. They subtly undermine relationships by playing one person against another. They whisper gossip, spread misinformation, or drop comments designed to sow distrust. They'll tell you one thing and someone else another, creating a web of confusion where the truth becomes hard to find. And before you know it, you're caught in the middle of their storm, trying to make sense of what's real and what's been fabricated. Think about it. How many times have you witnessed situations where things were going smoothly until one particular person got involved? Maybe it was a family gathering and suddenly old wounds were reopened. Maybe it was a workplace project and suddenly deadlines were missed, tempers flared, and collaboration fell apart. Or maybe it was a friendship group and suddenly people were taking sides, arguing over misunderstandings that seemed to come out of nowhere. In all these cases, there was someone pulling the string, someone who thrived on the discord they created. But why do they do it? What's the motivation behind this need to create chaos? For some, it's about control. Chaos gives them power because it allows them to position themselves as the one with the solutions, or at least the one everyone turns to for answers. They create the problem and then step in as the fixer, making themselves indispensable. It's a form of manipulation, a way to keep others dependent on them. For others, it's about attention. Let's be honest, chaos is loud, it's messy, and it draws eyes. Some people stir up trouble simply because they crave the spotlight. They want to be the center of the drama, the one everyone's talking about, good or bad, it doesn't matter. As long as they're being noticed, they feel validated. And then there are those who are simply broken inside. They carry unresolved pain, bitterness, or resentment, and rather than face it or heal from it, they project it outward. They hurt others because they're hurting. They destroy peace because they've never known it themselves. While it's important to have compassion for people's struggles, it doesn't mean you have to let them bring their chaos into your life. Now, let me be clear, not every argument or conflict means you're dealing with someone who creates chaos. Life itself is messy, and disagreements are a natural part of human relationships. But the difference lies in intent and pattern. A good person may unintentionally cause conflict, but they'll work to resolve it, to restore harmony. A chaotic person, on the other hand, isn't interested in resolution. They thrive on the tension, on the division, on the fallout. So how do you protect yourself from someone like this? First and foremost, you have to recognize them. Pay attention to patterns. If you notice that someone is constantly surrounded by drama, if they're always involved in arguments, misunderstandings, or fractured relationships, it's worth taking a closer look. Do they seem to instigate these situations even subtly? Do they escalate problems instead of diffusing them? Do they disappear when the dust settles only to reappear when the next wave of chaos begins? These are the signs. Once you've identified someone who creates chaos, the next step is to set boundaries. Boundaries are your lifeline, your shield. They let you maintain your peace while limiting the influence this person can have on your life. It might mean distancing yourself from them, saying no to their demands, or refusing to engage in their games. And let me tell you something, it's not always easy. These individuals are often masters of guilt tripping and manipulation. They'll make you feel like the bad guy for protecting your peace. But don't let that stop you. Your peace is non negotiable. Another important step is to cultivate your inner strength. Chaos makers feed on weakness, on insecurity, on doubt. But when you stand firm in who you are, when you're confident in your values and your truth, their influence diminishes. They can try to stir the pot, but you won't be so easily swayed. You'll see through their tactics, and you'll refuse to play their game. It's also essential to surround yourself with people who value peace, integrity, and mutual respect. Your environment plays a huge role in your ability to maintain balance. When you're surrounded by people who uplift you, who communicate openly and honestly, who prioritize harmony over discord, the chaotic person's influence becomes much weaker. They thrive in environments where division already exists, so don't give them that advantage. Build a strong, supportive community around you. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, don't let their chaos rob you of your joy. That's their ultimate goal: to disrupt, to destabilize, to steal your peace of mind. But you have the power to rise above it. You have the strength to stay grounded, even in the midst of their storm. Remember that chaos is a reflection of them, not of you. You don't have to take it on. You don't have to take it on. You don't have to let it define you. So today, I challenge you to take a hard look at the people in your life. Who brings you peace and who brings you chaos? Who builds you up and who tears you down? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it? Because you deserve a life that's free from unnecessary drama, a life where your energy is spent on growth, love, and purpose, not on cleaning up someone else's mess. Let me ask you a question that I want you to think about carefully. Who in your life is always taking from you but never giving anything back? I'm not just talking about material things like money or favors. No, I'm talking about your energy, your time, your trust, your love. These are the people who show up when they need something, who lean on you when they're down, but when it's your turn to need them, where are they? Absent, silent, or worse, indifferent. There are people in this world who have perfected the art of taking. They know how to make their needs a priority in every situation. They'll present their problems, their wants, their desires as urgent, as non-negotiable, and they'll expect you to put everything aside to cater to them. But what happens when you're the one in need? When you've got struggles, when your heart is heavy, when you need someone to lean on? These people suddenly forget the way to your door. They have no time, no energy, no concern to spare for you. Now, don't get me wrong. Life is about give and take. Relationships, friendships, even casual connections, they all require balance. Sometimes you give more, sometimes you take more, and that's okay. But what's not okay is a relationship that's one-sided, where you're always the giver and they're always the taker. Because let me tell you something, a relationship like that isn't a partnership. It's a transaction. Think about the people in your life right now. Who are the ones that call you only when they're in trouble? Who are the ones who show up only when they need something? Who are the ones that expect you to bend over backward for them, but can't even offer you a fraction of the same effort in return? These are the takers. And the thing about takers is that they never stop. See, a taker doesn't have limits. They don't see your generosity as a gift, they see it as a resource to exploit. They'll keep coming back, keep asking, keep draining you until there's nothing left. And the worst part, they'll blame you when you finally say no. They'll act like you're the selfish one, like you're the problem, because they've grown so accustomed to taking that they see it as their right. Takers come in many forms. Some are obvious, the ones who openly ask for favors, for money, for your time. But others are more subtle. They take in ways that aren't immediately apparent. They take your emotional energy by constantly unloading their problems on you, never stopping to ask how you're doing. They take your time by expecting you to drop everything whenever they need you, no matter what's going on in your own life. They take your trust by making promises they never keep, by saying all the right things but never following through with actions. And here's the thing, they don't see themselves as takers. In their minds, they're just doing what they have to do to get by. They might even think they're being fair, that the scales are balanced because they provide you with their presence or their company. But let me tell you, this presence without effort, without reciprocity, is not a gift. It's a drain. What makes it even more challenging is that takers often target givers. They can sense when someone is kind hearted, when someone has a tendency to put others first, and they latch on to that. They know that givers have a hard time saying no, that they feel guilty for setting boundaries. So they push and push, taking as much as they can, knowing that the giver is unlikely to push back. This dynamic can leave you feeling exhausted, resentful, and unappreciated. You start to question yourself, wondering if you're being selfish for wanting something in return, for wanting the same level of care and effort that you give. But let me tell you something, it's not selfish to expect balance. It's not selfish to want a relationship where your needs are valued as much as theirs. If you're always giving and never receiving, you're not in a healthy relationship. You're in a relationship where you're being used. And that's a hard truth to face, because takers often come disguised as friends, family, even partners. They're people you care about, people you want to help, people you've built a history with. But history doesn't justify mistreatment. And caring about someone doesn't mean you have to tolerate being drained by them. So what do you do? How do you deal with someone who takes but never gives back? First, you have to recognize the pattern. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with this person. Do you feel uplifted, supported, appreciated? Or do you feel drained, unimportant, and used? If it's the latter, that's a red flag. Next, you have to set boundaries. And I know that's easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with someone who's skilled at making you feel guilty. But boundaries are essential. They're not about punishment, they're about protection for your time, your energy, your well-being. When you set a boundary, you're not being mean or selfish. You're simply saying, this is what I need to stay healthy, to stay balanced, to stay me. And if someone truly cares about you, they'll respect that. They might not like it, they might push back at first, but they'll respect it. And if they don't, well, that tells you everything you need to know about where you stand in their life. It's also important to shift your perspective. Stop seeing yourself as the fixer, the savior, the one who always has to come to the rescue. You can be kind, you can be supportive, but you're not responsible for fixing other people's lives. You're responsible for your life, your happiness, your peace. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You're thinking, but what if they really need me? What if they can't make it without my help? And to that, I say this: helping someone doesn't mean enabling them. There's a difference between being there for someone and allowing them to take advantage of you. True help empowers the other person to grow, to improve, to become more self-sufficient. But enabling just keeps them stuck in their cycle, dependent on you, never learning how to stand on their own. You have to be willing to let people take responsibility for their own lives. It's not your job to carry them. And if they walk away because you set boundaries, because you ask for balance, then they were never really there for you to begin with. Lastly, surround yourself with people who understand the value of reciprocity, people who know that relationships are about giving and receiving, about mutual respect and effort. These are the people who will pour into you as much as you pour into them, who will show up for you just as much as you show up for them. Because at the end of the day, life is too short to spend it on one-sided relationships. Your energy, your time, your love, they're precious. Don't waste them on people who only know how to take. Invest them in people who will cherish them, who will appreciate them, who will give back in equal measure. So as you leave here today, I want you to take a moment to reflect on your relationships. Who are the takers in your life? Who leaves you feeling drained, unappreciated, and unseen? And what are you going to do about it? Because you have the power to choose. You have the power to protect your peace, to demand balance, to surround yourself with people who lift you up instead of pulling you down. As we close this conversation today, let me leave you with this: your life, your time, your energy, these are sacred. You were not put on this earth to be drained by people who only take and never give back. You were made for more than that. You were made for connections that uplift you, relationships that empower you, and a life filled with balance, respect, and mutual care. It's not selfish to set boundaries. It's not wrong to demand balance. It's not unkind to protect your peace. In fact, it's necessary. Because when you allow takers to dictate the terms of your life, You lose sight of who you are and what you deserve. And let me tell you, what you deserve is far greater than what they're offering. Reflect on the relationships in your life. Be honest about who gives and who only takes. And once you see the pattern, have the courage to act. Whether it means having a tough conversation, setting firmer boundaries, or walking away altogether, choose yourself. Choose your peace. Because when you clear out the takers, you make room for the givers. You open the door for relationships that nurture your soul, for people who will pour into you as much as you pour into them. And that, my friends, is where true joy, true love, and true fulfillment lie. So stand tall, protect your energy, value your worth. And remember, you don't have to give endlessly to be loved, to be worthy, to be enough. You already are. Thank you. Let's take a moment to pause and reflect. Think about the relationships in your life, friends, family, colleagues, maybe even your partner. Do you feel a sense of balance in those connections? Or do you find yourself always giving, always extending a helping hand, always being the one to show up while getting little to nothing in return? If you felt that imbalance, you're not alone. Many of us have been there. And today I'm here to tell you that recognizing it isn't just the first step to change, it's a necessity for your own growth and happiness. Because the truth is, there are people out there who are happy to take and never give back, and if you allow it, they'll drain you until there's nothing left. Now let's talk about what this looks like. These takers aren't always obvious. They might not outright ask you for something all the time. Instead, they could subtly pull you in, relying on your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to help. They'll make you feel obligated, as though their needs should always come first. And because you're compassionate, because you care, you keep giving your time, your attention, your emotional support. At first, you might not notice. After all, helping someone feels good. It's fulfilling to know you've made someone's day a little easier, a little brighter. But as time goes on, something shifts. You start to notice that the effort only flows one way. When you're the one who's struggling, when you're the one who needs someone to lean on, they're nowhere to be found. They always have an excuse, don't they? Oh, I'm so busy I didn't realize you needed me, I wish I could help. But yet, when the roles are reversed, their needs are urgent. Their problems demand your immediate attention. They take your energy, your resources, your care, and they leave you empty. But here's the thing, it's not your job to carry someone else's weight alone. A healthy relationship, whether it's with a friend, a partner, or even a colleague, is about reciprocity. It's about mutual respect, mutual effort, and mutual care. When one person is always giving and the other is always taking, that's not a relationship. That's a one-sided arrangement where someone is being used. And let me tell you something, your worth is not determined by how much you give. It's not tied to how many problems you solve for other people, how often you show up for them, or how much of yourself you sacrifice. You are worthy simply because you exist, and you deserve relationships that reflect that truth. But here's the hard part, recognizing the takers in your life is one thing, choosing to protect yourself from them is another. Why? Because takers are often skilled manipulators. They know how to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They'll call you selfish, accuse you of not caring, or even try to convince you that you owe them your help. But you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your energy. You don't owe anyone the right to drain you. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-respect. It's saying, I value myself enough to protect my peace, my time, my energy. And if someone truly cares about you, they'll respect those boundaries. Guilt should not be the currency of your relationships. Love, respect, and reciprocity, that's the real currency. That's what a healthy connection looks like. So what's the solution? How do you break free from this cycle? It starts with one word, no. No to their demands. No to their guilt trips. No to their endless taking. And yes to yourself. Yes to your peace, your priorities, your happiness. Now, I know that saying no isn't always easy. It might come with backlash. Takers don't like being told no because it disrupts the dynamic they've grown comfortable with. But let me tell you this, every time you say no to a taker, you're saying yes to a better life. You're creating space for people who will give as much as they take, for relationships that nourish you instead of draining you. And when you do that, when you start prioritizing yourself, you'll feel something shift. You'll feel lighter, freer, more at peace. You'll realize that your worth isn't tied to how much you give to others, but to how much you value yourself. So as you walk away from this message today, I challenge you to take inventory of your relationships. Who are the takers? Who leaves you feeling drained? And what are you willing to do to protect your peace? Because at the end of the day, life is too short to be weighed down by people who only know how to take. You deserve better. You deserve balance. And you have the power to create that in your life. I want to talk about something that's difficult but necessary. It's about recognizing the signs of true darkness in people, not just flaws or imperfections, but the kind of behavior that can deeply wound your soul. And let me tell you, recognizing these signs is not about judging or condemning, it's about protecting your heart, your peace, and your purpose. Now, when I say evil, I'm not talking about villains from movies or characters from fairy tales. I'm talking about people who operate in ways that intentionally harm, manipulate, and destroy others. They might look ordinary, even charming, but their actions reveal who they truly are. Let's explore 5 signs that you may be dealing with such a person, and remember, awareness is the first step toward empowerment. The first sign is manipulation cloaked in charm. An evil person will often seem like the most charming individual in the room. They'll say all the right things, wear the perfect smile, and know exactly how to make you feel special. But this charm isn't genuine. It's a tool. It's their way of gaining your trust, of lowering your defenses. Once they have you in their grasp, that charm disappears, replaced by control and exploitation. Think about the story of Ted Bundy. He wasn't the shadowy figure hiding in a corner. He was personable, charismatic, someone people trusted. And yet, beneath that charm was a predator. This is how manipulation works. It draws you in with light, only to engulf you in darkness. In your life, it may not be as dramatic as a headline-making criminal, but it could be a friend who uses flattery to get their way, or a partner whose kindness vanishes when you don't do what they want. The lesson? Charm without consistency is a red flag. Pay attention to actions, not just words. The second sign is that they lack empathy. Empathy is the bridge that connects us as human beings. It's what allows us to share in each other's joys and sorrows. But an evil person, they don't have that bridge. They can watch someone suffer, maybe even cause that suffering, and feel nothing. I once met a woman who told me about her boss. He would berate employees to tears, all while smirking, as if their pain was amusing to him. When confronted, he'd say, "It's just business." Don't take it personally, but how can you not take it personally when someone derives pleasure from your suffering? You see, a lack of empathy doesn't just hurt, it dehumanizes. It reduces people to tools, objects to be used and discarded. And if you ever find yourself in the presence of someone who shows no compassion, no concern for others, it's time to distance yourself. You cannot reason with someone who refuses to feel. The third sign is that they create chaos wherever they go. You've probably heard the phrase, they leave a trail of destruction in their wake. This is what evil people do. They thrive in turmoil. They pit people against each other, spread lies, and foster division, all to keep the focus off their own wrongdoings. Take, for example, historical figures who rose to power by turning communities against one another. They create enemies where none existed, exploit fear, and watch as society tore itself apart, all while benefiting from the chaos they orchestrated. In your personal life, this could look like a coworker who stirs up drama, a friend who spreads gossip, or even a family member who constantly sows discord. They live for the chaos because it gives them control. And here's the truth: peace cannot coexist with someone who thrives on destruction. You must choose one or the other. The fourth sign is that they take but never give. Evil people are takers, plain and simple. They'll drain your time, your energy, your resources, whatever you're willing to give. And when you're empty, when you have nothing left to offer, they'll walk away without a second thought. Think about relationships where you're always the one calling, the one helping, the one sacrificing. Does that person ever pour into you the way you pour into them? Do they ever show up for you when you're the one in need? I remember a friend who confided in me about her partner. She said, "Every time he needs something, I'm there." But when I'm struggling, he's too busy, too tired, or just doesn't care. That's not love. That's exploitation. And the hard truth is this: people who only take are not worth your giving. Protect your boundaries because takers won't. Finally, the fifth sign: they exploit your weaknesses. We all have vulnerabilities, things we're sensitive about, mistakes we've made, or fears we hold close to our chest. An evil person will find those vulnerabilities and use them against you. They'll bring up your past to shame you. They'll exploit your fears to control you. They'll twist your insecurities to make you doubt yourself. Why? Because when you're doubting yourself, you're easier to manipulate. I once spoke with a young man who had an overly critical parent. Every time he achieved something, his parent would say, "Well, you only got that because you got lucky," or "let's see how long you can keep it up over time." Those words eroded his confidence. That's what evil does. It diminishes you, keeps you small, so that you're easier to dominate. But let me tell you this: your weaknesses are not a weapon for anyone to use. Own them, embrace them, and never let someone exploit them to tear you down. So, my friends, these are the five signs: manipulation cloaked in charm, a lack of empathy, chaos as their constant companion, relentless taking without giving, and exploiting your vulnerabilities. Now, here's the good news: you have the power to protect yourself. You have the power to set boundaries, to walk away, to choose peace over turmoil. Recognizing evil is not about fear, it's about empowerment. And let me leave you with this: the light within you is stronger than any darkness. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who love you, who make you better. Don't waste your light on those who seek to extinguish it. Because you, my friend, deserve so much more than that. As we come to the end of this journey together, let me leave you with a truth that resonates deeply: recognizing the presence of darkness is not a sign of weakness, it's a mark of strength. To see clearly, to name what is harmful, and to protect yourself from it takes courage. And courage, my friends, is your birthright. The world is full of light and shadow, of kindness and cruelty, of giving souls and those who only take. But you were not created to live under the shadow of anyone's manipulation, cruelty, or chaos. You were made to stand tall, to shine brightly, and to walk in the fullness of your purpose. The signs are there: charm that manipulates, empathy that's missing, chaos that consumes, taking without giving, and wounds that are exploited. These are the markers of someone who does not have your best interests at heart. And when you see these signs, I urge you to trust your instincts. Your peace is priceless, your energy sacred, and your heart worthy of protection. So choose to walk away if you must. Choose to rise above. Choose the company of those who bring life and love, not pain and destruction. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the evil around you, it's about the goodness within you. Guard it, nurture it. Let it shine so brightly that no darkness can ever dim its glow. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and above all, stay true to the light within you.